first, this is the second of our writing skills workshops. And again, this will be today and tomorrow, and it's on contextualization. So I'll tell you a quick thing really quick. You're probably wondering when you look up here why our Bitmojis have Star Wars. Well, there's a couple of reasons, all right? One of the reasons I'll come back and explain to you a little bit later on, but the first reason is because when I first started working here, I was the only one of the two of us that was reading for the College Board, and I'd been doing it for a long time. And so I did all the writing skill-based lessons and stuff like that forever. Well, in the last 5 years, all right, Mr. Baker has actually scored the DBQ more often, all right, than I have for the College Board. I typically do now the SAQ, which I like to call lucky.
And look what it's done to me.
Yeah, he's 22 years old. He's going to tell you a little bit about contextualization today. So our first Star Wars reference is that I need to know a lot about contextualization, but my young Padawan over here has now become the master, and he's going to tell you about creating that 2-point opening paragraph and creating contextualization for your essays.
All right, so thank you, Padme.
Old wise man.
Whatever. Okay, so that 2-point opening paragraph, we're going to talk about it, we're going to say it. You've got to be able to master that. And that's going to be a thing we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the year.
Everybody able
to. So if it's April and you can't get down a 2-point opening paragraph, regardless of the prompt, we're in trouble. All right? But it's November. Shh, guys. So we've got time. All right? In the second semester, your WWEs will all be skills like this, writing an opening paragraph. All right? So, opening paragraph, contextualization, 1 point. Thesis, 1 point. As you finish your opening paragraph, you should have 2 points in the bank.
What happened?
The DBQ is out of 7 points. It is not realistic that everyone in here could write a 7. I'm sorry, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but it's just, you don't know what the topic is, what the documents are, and 60 minutes is 60 minutes. It is very, very quick. So what is a reasonable score to shoot for the average writer? A 5. All right. If you get a 4, I'm still happy. You get a 6, wow. You get a 7, okay. Now a 5. On the LEQ, it's a 4, which means you can get a 3 or a 5 and be in great shape. But we're going to, anything less than a 3, anything less than a 4 here is no bueno. All right. Now, if you get 2 points after writing 1 paragraph, you're only 3 points away from getting that 5 after 1 paragraph. In the LEQ, you're only 2 points away from getting that 4. So that's why it's so important. There's so many points in one area of the essay. And I'll tell you, as a reader, when someone writes a really good opening paragraph, it sets you up well for the rest of the essay. It gives us the impression that, hey, you know what you're talking about. You understand how to formulate this first paragraph. And it's very rare, it's not impossible, but it's very rare that you write an awesome opening paragraph and then the rest of the essay fails. All right, so if you can master this for a variety of different prompts, you're going to be in really good shape. Now, there's stuff to go over. We're going to talk about the DBQ. We're going to talk about how to use evidence and how to source them and how to make it work towards complexity. But at a base level, DBQ or LEQ, you got to hit those 2 points. Those are 2 of the 5 or 2 of the 4 that are must-haves. Now, Amendola would always say the same thing. He would be like, you know what? You would not believe just how many kids can't get this. Not referring necessarily our kids, but if you go to the reading, which I didn't want to, because it's 8 days of grading essays, that sounds awful. And it is. It's like, you wouldn't, I said, how are they not getting this? It seems like it's easy. And then I went to the reading, and he was right. Kids really don't know how to do this. I mean, it's just, and it could be because maybe they don't have us as teachers. Or the fact that they just are they're not history strong. All right, they don't have a lot of good content knowledge. All right, it's tough to BS your way through and earn the point for contextualization if you don't know specific history. Now, context. The College Board defines it as, to earn this point, the response must relate to the topic of the prompt, to broader historical events, developments, or processes that occur before, during, or after the time frame of the question. Every prompt will give you a time frame. For the example today, I'm going to use 1800 to 1850, 50 years. That's pretty standard. So this information that you're going to use for contextual could come from before 1800, during the time frame, or after. most of your context, most of you guys writing in here are going to go before. I don't blame you. That's what I would do. It makes sense because you're talking about things that happened before and how it relates, and then all of a sudden you hit them with your thesis. All right? We're going to show you an example later and into tomorrow about Amendola writes a contextualization that actually does all three. You don't need to do all three. Most likely, you're just going to do the before. When you get that time frame in the prompt, you are locked into that time frame. Your whole essay has to revolve around 1800 to 1850 or 1870 to 1920. Like it has to be all your evidence comes from there. The documents come from there. Contextualization is one of the times that you can go outside of those time frames. And most kids go before. How far before? 50 years. I like it 20 because then that really hits it. But you could go 50 years as long as you're on the same topic. But if you're talking about the market revolution, don't go 65 million years ago, a meteor hit and killed the dinosaur. Like, seriously, we've seen things. I've seen people there was an essay on Nixon, and someone was talking about Columbus coming over. Like that, yes, it's part of U.S. history, and we talked about it in the course. Nixon is part of the course. Columbus is part of the course. But that's too far. And there's nothing in common. So, here we go. Context is the information surrounds what we are discussing. It gives background that the reader might need in order to understand the argument. Now, anyone who's grading essays in the summer for the College Board, they know American history, right? You have to assume they know nothing. You have to go in with that mindset. Even though they do know stuff, you cannot expect them to say, well, I know what they mean. They're not going to. They're not going to give you the benefit because we're not supposed to. You have to state what you actually mean. And in this case, be as specific as possible. So,
all right, so in your real life, some of the places you might need contextualization or context, all right, is with, I'll give you a dumb example. How many of you guys are looking forward to the new season of Stranger Things, right? It's coming out like a month or so. Yeah, everybody's all excited. My daughter came up the other day and she's like, oh, the new season of Stranger Things is coming out. You know what we should do? We should watch the whole 4th season so we're ready for the 5th season. And she wants to do this for 2 reasons. One, she's a total drain on my time.
You know, the other reason, though,
the other reason is that she wants to be prepared for the new season. You know, it's been a couple of years with that show, you know, and so we don't know a lot of things anymore. Like, well, geez, why are they there again? What are they doing? Why are all these kids 40? There's a lot of questions that we have to answer. The point is that if you've ever done that, all right, I'll probably watch one of those, Screen Crush, 10 minutes, everything you need to know kind of videos, and it's going to provide the contextualization. It's not going to tell me everything I need to know in order to understand the show, but it's going to give me the things that I need. If you ever watch a normal, sitcom on TV, they might say, previously on your favorite show. And then when they do the previously on, okay, they don't show you all the episodes that happen. They give you little snippets of things, and those snippets lead to what you're about to see. And that's the important part. They don't just show random clips from previous episodes. They show clips that build to what you're about to see in this particular episode. Oh, okay, I get it. Have you ever been watching a movie by yourself and then like halfway through the movie, mom comes in and sits down and your little sister comes in and sits down? What do they start doing right away? Asking questions, right? Like, well, why is he going in there? Well, who's that person? And you just want to slap everybody on the couch. Well, why do they do it? One, they're rude. But the other reason they do that is they don't have the context. They don't understand what's going on that leads to the information that they're looking at that moment. So your essay contextualization is going to do the same thing. It's going to provide information, all right, that the reader needs to understand why you're about to argue about whatever it is, evaluating the extent to which whatever is going on is happening in whatever time period you're writing about at that particular moment. All right, so Mr. Baker is going to show you guys a clip of a movie, okay, that you won't understand to show you how important contextualization actually is.
And another example using TV is, the show Cobra Kai. I love that show, but I've not seen the last season. And it's been a few years or a year and a half or since so I need that to kind of fill in the gaps. Otherwise, I'm going to be kind of lost. And anyone seen it? Is it good? The last season? Not really? Okay, I'm not expecting much. So, but anyway, I want to show you the first 3 minutes of a movie that you probably haven't seen. Now, if you've seen it, please don't be like, I know that, this is what happens. All right? Hopefully, you want to see it yourself because it's a pretty good movie. It's from the 1980s. That's when they made it. And again, no one expects when you start watching something that you're going to have all the answers, all right? But you should be, when you watch this, especially confused, more so than you should be, because there's something I haven't shown you, all right? I'll show it after to fill in the gaps, to show you just how important context is. But here it is, video clip, that's it, and be ready for some questions on the next slide. I'm going to turn the lights off because it's kind of a dark scene. There's not a lot of dialogue, all right? There's some radio chatter and a few things, but it's more about what you see and the tone, and there should be, like I said, a lot of questions that come up. Anyone see it? Okay, good. Point is, what's happening? Exactly. Prisoners. What city was it? New York. Where was the prison, though? Okay. So, guys were trying to get across the river. The helicopter came. They said 2 escape in progress, 2 guys on a raft. They gave them a warning shot. They said, hey, turn around. And from what I could tell, they were going across the screen this way, and then they stopped, and then the warning shot, they started going back the other way. And then what happened? They shot him anyway. Like, they didn't wait 10 seconds. They just shot him. And then did the guy at the end, did he seem really broken up about it? No. He's like, all right, 2 in the water, confirmed. Very well. He goes about his day. All right. Now, do we know when this takes place? Pre-2001, yep. All right, Twin Towers were there. All right, but the city was all dark. Do we know who the good guys are? Do we know the antagonist? Not really. You'd like to think that the guards are the good guys. All right. We know that they were trying to escape, but escape from what? Where is this prison? Like it said, Manhattan. Middle of the river, okay. And obviously there's the Statue of Liberty, Liberty Island. There's a lot of unanswered questions, all right? And a lot of these questions could be answered if I would have shown you the minute that preceded the clip, the 3-minute clip we just watched, all right? And again, this clip I'm gonna show you next, it doesn't explain everything, but it's gonna be like, oh, okay, that makes sense, all right? And that's the same idea behind contextualization. You're not giving your whole essay away. You're talking about, obviously something happened to New York, all right? Why does it look like that? Why are they trying to escape the island? Why, there's this giant wall, So, Liberty Island doesn't look like that, like today, at least not that I know of. So here is the minute or so. Nope, that is, the first part of the clip I didn't show you.
Once great city of New York becomes the one maximum security prison on the entire country. A 50-foot containment wall is erected along the New Jersey shoreline, across the Harlem River, and down along the Brooklyn shoreline. Completely surrounds Manhattan Island. All bridges and waterways are armed. The United States police force, like an army, is camped around the island. There are no guards inside the prison. Prisoners and the world they have made. The rules are simple. Once you go in, you don't come out.
The future. I was a junior in high school. He was teaching. And then, okay. Obviously, this is probably the United States Police Force. There's a giant wall. That's probably the 50-foot containment wall. And all of a sudden, the desolate-looking New York of Manhattan makes sense. So some of these should all be more easy to answer. We don't know why the crime rate went up 400%. It's not that necessary, but it does provide an idea of, okay, New York was transformed into this because of this event. Just like contextualization, you're not going to give the whole history of something that happened before your thesis. You're going to give kind of a little bit of snippets as you go. But it's not just a list of things that happened. And that's what a lot of kids mistakenly do. All right, so let's look at 1800 to 1850. And your prompt is on the market revolution. If you were to just put, in 1793, the cotton gin was invented. In 1807, the steamboat was invented. Although the market revolution did it, and then you start your thesis, like that, just a list of things is not going to cut it, all right? Yes, you want to talk about the fact that the cotton gin was invented just prior to the time period. That's very relevant, and you would want to use it. It's specific. The steamboat, all right? And you want to work that into like, this is what happened, this was the impact, and then lead into your thesis, all right? So the movie in question is Escape from New York. It was a John Carpenter film. John Carpenter made the first, I don't know how many he made. I know he made the first Halloween. I think the best one. It's very 80s-esque. And in 1988, yes, 1997 definitely seemed like the future. Now it's a long, long time ago in a country far, far away. It stars Kurt Russell. You probably know Kurt Russell from The Santa Claus. All right, he plays a much different character in this movie. But definitely worth seeing. The premise of the movie is that Air Force One gets hijacked and they purposely crash it into the island. Not the Twin Towers or anything like that. It's nothing related. But they crashed it in there and they got to send in this prisoner who's about to be sent to the island to try and rescue the president to bring him out. Because he's obviously being held by the prisoners on the island. So it's a pretty cool premise. They made a sequel in 96 called Escape from LA.
But nobody could because of the traffic.
Yeah.
So that's
so,
there.
All right, so contextualization.
I'll be here all week. Yes, and definitely Snake from Escape from New York, definitely different than Santa Claus, if you learned one thing today. So a couple of things. One of the best written examples that you can see in your pop culture lives is the scroll at the beginning of Star Wars. I told you I was going to come back and talk about more Star Wars. And if you remember those movies, they all start with the scroll. You know, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then you don't really want to start your essay that way. But then after that, they kind of tell you all the things you need to know leading up to the story. So if you look at this one from The Empire Strikes Back, all right, it's a dark time for the rebellion, although the Death Star has been destroyed, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And then when the movie kicks in, you're all caught up, all right? You got everything you need. Now, if you don't know these scrolls or Star Wars movies, two things. One, you'll probably have to leave America. But secondly, you can go onto YouTube and you can watch them and you'll get an idea. Like, oh, all right, I got everything I need to know now to watch the movies. And it works, and they work reasonably well. Now, one of the differences is that the scroll in Star Wars would be longer than what you would write for your contextualization. We practice it tomorrow. We're looking for, 3 to 4 content-rich sentences. This is longer than that, but the idea is still very much the same. They give specific information. It's on theme. It's on point. It's about the movie. And then you're all ready to go for the actual movie, or in your case, your essay and your argument will be all set up by the contextualization.
A couple years ago, back during the hybrid disaster, we hadn't combined the classes yet. We had taught contextualization a little bit later into period 5. So I decided to do a Star Wars crawl for period 5. And you can go to a bunch of websites now, type in on Google Star Wars crawl creator, and basically you type in your text and it adds it like it would have been at the beginning of the movie with the soundtrack and everything. I made one with this one website, and I typed in all the stuff about leading from period 4 into period 5. I want to show that to you. It's definitely Star Wars-esque. The thing about it, though, I mentioned inside there's a reference to a Jackson eulogy. We used to do this assignment called the Jackson funeral, or the Jackson eulogy assignment, where Jackson dies, and you play the role of a particular person from American history, any part of American history. Could be present day, could be during the time period in question, it could be founding fathers, and you are attending Jackson's funeral, and you have to give a eulogy. Eulogies are supposed to be like honoring the person. Well, if you're Henry Clay, your eulogy is probably not going to be too flattering, all right? If you're Martin Luther King, you're probably not going to give a very flattering eulogy to Jackson. So what we did is we had kids record their eulogies on Flipgrid, and then other kids could see what they did, and they were really creative and hilarious. So when I make reference to that, that's what I'm talking about. But this is the crawl, the period 5 crawl that I did a couple years ago. Same idea, contextualization. And the Mexican-American War. But that gives you the nice little segue into period 5.
So one of the things, when you see that, it's like, yeah, like if you know the Star Wars movies, right, it would have panned down, and there would have been like a space battle going on. Well, in this case, it would have panned down, and there would have been the Mexican-American War going on, which strangely had more lightsabers. I don't know how that happened. But one of the things we want to talk about is that we want to be clear that your contextualization technically could be anywhere in your essay, but we like it in that opening paragraph. We want to be able to create that 2-point opening paragraph. And what it does also, by being in your opening paragraph, it gives you something to write first. We've all written essays where the teacher says, okay, you can begin, and you freeze up. Well, where do I start? Well, in this class, you'll always know I start with contextualization, whether it's my DBQ or my LEQ, so you can get going right away. when you want to do that. So I came up with a non-content example, and we'll look at this a little bit tomorrow too, and you'll get a chance to practice some. Evaluate the extent to which the Star Wars franchise changed the impact of movies on American culture from 1977 to 2020. All right, so there it is. All right, we look at our time frame, and we'll do more on breaking down the prompt later. We've done a little of that in the past. We'll do a little more of it later. But I've got my thesis already. We're not working on that today. And if you look at my thesis, okay, with franchises like Marvel and Harry Potter permeated the culture for a long time due to it being first in its influential words like force and droid becoming everyday language. The Star Wars franchise had the largest impact on American culture. So I've got my historically defensible claim. I've established a line of reasoning. And in fact, this is actually a complex thesis because I even entertained a alternate viewpoint in there, all right, which we talked a little bit about when we did that. So now I need my contextualization. I know that it's going to be about 3 to 4 content-rich sentences, all right? No big, broad, general statements. Here's a way that we'll be able to figure that out as we go. If we could take your contextualization and put it on any prompt, you know, then it's too broad. If it fits any prompt from the time period, then you haven't roped into the theme quite enough. And again, that's something we'll deal with as we go.
Some of your theses were like that.
Yeah, we saw that with the thesis statements, and again, we'll work on that too as we go. So here's what my opening paragraph looks like. Okay, my contextualization is in purple here, and then you'll notice my thesis down here. We'll open with this again a little bit tomorrow. But I talk about TV shows like Davy Crockett back in the 1950s. All right. I talk about sci-fi movies of the 60s. All right, being very campy. And then I even talk about things that come after Star Wars, like Jurassic Park and Avatar, and that they sold a lot of toys and they modeled theme park rides after those franchises. So again, your contextualization could be before, during, or after the time period. I did all three here just to show you could do it. You don't really have to do that. And in fact, most of the time, I think we said this earlier, your contextualization will be before. But then notice what I did. So I've got my contextualization here. Then, no big mystery. The rest of my paragraph is my thesis. And if you look back on the previous slide, that's the same thesis statement I had before. And now I've got my 4 to 6 sentence opening paragraph that earns 2 points. All right, and that's what we're going to be shooting for, all right, between now and Thanksgiving, is being able to write that 2-point opening paragraph, which you guys will see more as the year goes on, that's paramount towards your success on both the LEQ and the DBQ. So I know we are going to run out of time, aren't we? We're
sadly, yes.
Yes, sadly, yes. So we'll stop there for now, and then tomorrow we'll pick up with this again. We'll practice one together, and then you'll have an opportunity to practice some on your own, both content and non-content content examples tomorrow.